Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Arsenal Pass Time to Round, episode 22. Today, we're joined by last-minute guest Dante Delfico. I actually haven't written an entree. Sorry,
an entree
for Dante. An entree for Dante. I've written an intro for him, but a lot of us know Dante Delfico already. Had a little bit of fame back in the early skirmish seasons, winning a lot of skirmishes, then proceeded to throw his career in the garbage bin and lose a few callings. Just kidding. He actually had a very successful professional season. Throughout the callings, he ended with 3 PTIs in total. And Dante, how did your Canadian national champs go?
Poorly. I was not the winner, so that is a failure in my eyes. But such is life. It happens. I guess I'll have to try again next year. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So Dante's also a member of our testing team, a person that we've kind of been around a lot in recent time. I met Dante for the first time in Vegas, and had some interesting experiences meeting him for the first time in person. Slept in the same room as him, and it got a bit weird, but not in the way you think it did.
I think you should consider yourself lucky. People would die to be in that position.
I guess
I think
time.
Took it for granted. So
I think it's time for that story to be on Arsenal Pass, because I've told this story on the UK podcast, Push the Point podcast. And I think it's time to bring it.
All right, let's hear it. I want to hear the story.
You can go ahead. Yeah.
So, leading up to Vegas, Dante and I decided to room together. I said, Dante, if we're gonna room together, you just can't snore. Can't do it. I can't sleep if you do that. It's a big no-go. He's like, yeah, no worries, I don't do it. I was like, okay, all good. Just want to let you know that if you do it, I'll smother you. So we go for a few months, we have everything booked, and then apparently like a couple of weeks leading up to it, he messages an old roommate, and he's like, hey, do I snore? And the roommate's like, yeah, for sure. Or something. And Dante doesn't tell me, of course. I land in Vegas. Dante lands a little bit after me. He landed before me. I landed after. And then because he's Canadian, I decided to walk him around the strip, the Vegas strip. We walk around for about 2 to 3 hours. I just remember Dante was like, my feet really hurt. He's like, I'm really tired. I was like, okay, we went back, and we got
both our feet really hurt. Thank you very much. We went on like a 15-kilometer walk.
So we go back for the night, and we go to sleep. Right? And what Dante does is he doesn't snore. He's laying in his bed, and he's about to fall asleep, and he just whenever he moves his body, he just makes this violent animal just dying sound, kind of like just weird. So I was sitting in my bed, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, he just kept doing it for like 20 minutes. I was like, damn, I really made him tired on that walk or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that's Dante's thing. After that, he slept like a baby, no problem with the sleep. But every single night, just shit, and he would just curse and just all this stuff. But he has no recollection of doing it. Crazy enough.
It's kind of nice that you watched him go to sleep, Brendan. Made sure that he was okay.
Well, he would be listening to his audiobooks.
Yeah, you try to sleep through that. I'm listening to Pride and Prejudice and just chilling out, and then Dante's just screaming at his neighbor in the bed next to me.
It's weird because I know I've said this to you, but nobody has ever told me that before. No roommates, no past girlfriends or anything like that. Nobody has ever said, yeah, when you fall asleep, you make this weird grunting noise every time you move.
So I think you're kind of lying, because you've told me that you said you talked to your ex or something, and
no.
One thing is that you talk in your sleep. I think
so that was my old roommate said that I did talk in my sleep every now and again. Every now and again, not every single night. But you make it sound like every single night I'm just grunting and dying a little bit while I'm trying to fall asleep. So
Dante wondered why he has all these restraining orders against him, and so it's to do with his sleeping patterns.
It's all starting to make sense, actually.
Yeah, it was bizarre. But after that, he slept like a baby. I do have my patented Dante fan that I bring with me to every turn.
Oh, that is really weird, by the way.
Yeah, having a fan for white noise?
Yeah, you just
got it at one of the callings, and he asked me to go buy him one in the airport.
I went. Yeah, because you were in the airport, but I just went and bought one in Cincinnati.
When I came to Orlando, and I had the pleasure of staying with you two. Thankfully, we had separate rooms because that was on the agenda for me. But I walked past Brendan's room, just having a looking around the place, and all I hear is I'm like, what is that noise? It's the middle of the day. We've just got back from being out for the day. Fan's on. There's a fan on in your room.
Let me break it down for the listeners here about how the geometry of this room or this
Geometry.
apartment was. Yeah, we walk in and you get Hayden's big master bedroom, and then you have a living room, and there's a little hallway, and then there's me and Dante's room right next to each other. So guess what I could hear at night if I didn't run my fan through the wall? Just like so. Obviously, I'm running my fan.
There's no chance that you could hear me through the walls.
I don't think he turned it off, Dante.
because
I think he had it on the whole time.
He did have it on the whole time.
Real weird.
Like when you guys were, I think you guys went out for breakfast one morning after the Sunday when we went out, and I slept until like noon. And the fan was still going, and I was like, "Damn, this guy just doesn't quit."
Slept like a baby.
He's scared he's going to hear you from 3 miles down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
A fan is the trick.
Well, good to know. Dante. So
What a ridiculous segment.
I wanted to bring it back to Flesh and Blood, if you don't mind, as much as I enjoy it. I mean, this is Flesh and Blood related. We were all in the same room. Well, not in the same room, but in the same place. Clarify. You just played Canadian Nationals this past weekend, and I wanted to ask you. Obviously, top 8 at Orlando the weekend before, and as Brendan said, great season, right? 3 PCIs in the bank, 2 from callings, 1 from Canadian Nationals. You had a week between Orlando and Canadian Nationals, and the meta was starting to change, right? So, like, what did your week look like? Like, what were you testing? What were your thought process? And in the end, what made you ultimately run back the Briar deck into Canadian Nationals?
Yeah, so I guess the week prior, it was kind of just how can we make a deck that targets Briar that, number one, I have all the cards for, and number two, I know how to play properly. I had success with Briar in Orlando, so obviously I know how to play that deck. I know how to pilot it correctly to a high level. So I was very comfortable with that deck, but I figured that at least, I don't know, knowing Canadians, probably like 50% of people were going to be on that deck. And the last thing I wanted was to play like 20 mirrors in a day, because I really do not like playing mirrors. And if 50% of the meta is going to be on that deck, then if I can bring something that targets that deck extremely well, then that would probably be the move. It would make my day a lot easier, and I'd really only have to worry about sealed and draft. So obviously our top contenders for that were Lexi, Ice Lexi, and Viscera, because the Viscera deck that Matt Rogers ran in Orlando was extremely good into the Lightning Briar deck. I played a lot against the Viscera deck, and the matchup seemed like it was like 90-10 for Viscera. Like you could almost never lose as the Viscera player. I don't know how you guys managed to do it in that video you put out, but it seems impossible. That's exactly. Hey, listen, I don't want to say it, but I think that somebody was piloting the deck incorrectly, because you almost never lose on that deck.
I might have been the 5 or 6 plunder runs from Arsenal. That might be the way to beat it, Dante.
Yeah, so that is the way that we found that you beat that deck, was basically just like this constant plunder run spam where the Viscera player just doesn't get to play the game, which doesn't really happen very frequently. Like I said, about 10% of the time. So going in, I wanted to play Vis, to be honest, but number one, I hadn't practiced it at all. And number two, I didn't even have the cards for it. So it just became, I guess I'm just playing Lightning Briar again, and I'm going to pray to God that nobody's on the Vis deck, which nobody was, surprisingly. I thought that there were going to be a lot of people on it, and I was just kind of hoping that they just weren't going to play it properly. But it ended up that there were more Old Hymns and Ice Lexis, actually, than there were like Viscera players. I think there was a couple Viscera players, but I think that they might have lost one of their early rounds, so I didn't actually end up seeing them on the day, which was fortunate for me. But yeah, most of Canadian Nats was just like very aggressive decks, and there were obviously a few Ice Lexis and Old Hymns and Bravos and stuff like that. But for the most part, I think probably 50% of the meta was that Lightning Briar deck. So it was good that I was experienced enough and like I understood how to play the mirror correctly, because there were quite a few Lightning Briar mirrors that I had to play throughout the day.
Do you know what the breakdown was? You said you thought maybe 50% of people might play the deck. I'm sure it wasn't quite that much, but maybe close.
Yeah, I think that LSS put out an article with the day 2 breakdown. I don't think they had the full breakdown, but I think day 2 was 50% Briar. That was there. And I think 2 Briars out of that 50% were like Earth or Hybrid, and everything else was just pure like Lightning, like just Tarek Patel's list, basically.
You said playing 20 mirrors. To be honest, playing 20 mirrors sounds like a dream. Actually, I personally like the Lightning.
I don't know why
Briar
you
mirror.
guys, I don't know why you guys enjoy that.
Okay,
It's
but
not
to be
fun for me.
fair, like you say you don't enjoy it and you complain about it, but you never lose the mirror. Like how many times in a competitive and pro event have you lost the mirror?
Yeah. Listen, hey, I
'Cause
see what you're saying.
I've lost 0 times. Hayden's lost 0 times, and I'm pretty sure you've also lost 0 times.
Yeah, I came close that one time though in Orlando. You remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. I was so tilted by what your opponent. I wasn't tilted, but I was so concerned by what your opponent did to throw that game away. I actually, was like, hey, why didn't you just pay for Sonata?
Hey, sometimes
Yeah, I was. Sorry, you go ahead, Hayden.
let's just say sometimes in the day you've got to rely on that. You got to get a little bit of luck leaning your way. Get a little bit of sometimes you need a misplay or a good draw to win a game. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, Brennan's right. He's correct that I haven't actually lost the mirror in like a competitive event. Obviously, like in testing and stuff, you lose all the time. But I don't know. I still don't enjoy playing it. I don't know why, even though it's like wins or whatever. I don't love it. So I would rather play something else and just not play mirrors. I think I just detest mirror matches, to be honest with you. I don't know why.
That chain experience is just haunting you forever.
Yeah, I think it is. I honestly think that's what it is. Chain just ruined everything for me. And now here I am, just this jaded man who hates playing mirrors.
I mean, your two calling top 8s have come in midders that have been you've played the midder deck and played a number of mirrors throughout those events to top 8s.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's going to happen again
via the mirror in Vegas. So I think
Yeah, I always lose to something else. Actually, I did lose the mirror in
Yeah,
Vegas.
that might be what scarred you for life.
That's the chain mirror. That's different.
That's
the chain
why I hate
mirror
mirrors.
is. Chain mirror is
Yeah,
different.
chain
story.
mirror, double razor reflex. We don't talk about that though. Every time somebody plays a razor reflex against me, I get like PTSD.
You like do the shakes.
Sent back, yeah.
Can't even play Ira mirrors anymore. It just doesn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Ira, Dante, with your skirmishes coming up, I don't know if you have any blitz ones, but since you are sort of a famous blitz player, what deck are you going to be on this season?
Well, I'm actually committed to learning Kano for this season, and I don't think I'll get a chance to learn Kano prior to like many of the skirmishes that I have coming up. I also don't know how many skirmishes I'll be going to be honest. But if I can bring Kano to one, and I've had like a few reps on the deck, I'll probably bring Kano and just see how I do. But yeah, I'm committed to learning Kano because I feel like he's the future, and Ira is kind of going by the wayside.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
He has a lot of good matchups. I mean, and a lot of the Ira lists have cut the double sigil, makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, the format's just getting it's getting more and more aggressive again, which is interesting. We'll see if it keeps going the same way. Though I saw some old time pop up. I think we had 2 old time decks in the top 8 of our Blitz skirmish last weekend. So it was like it was very polarizing. Like some very aggressive decks. Like even the Ira decks were a bit more aggressive. There's a couple of Kano, and then there was like these 2 old time decks that were kind of just trying to dirtle away a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking to some friends. Apparently, Briar and Oldhim are like just so good in Blitz right now. Apparently, Oldhim is like the best Blitz deck, according to them. They said that if I want to take anything, I should take Oldhim. And
I tested Kano into Oldhim like 20 games, and it was a total buy. Like I won all 20.
Really?
Yep.
You won all 20?
Well, yep, 100%.
Do you just have to like set up the bottom, or what do you do?
Well, it depends what they're running, right? If they run the 4 no rune and they're just like they have like a fatigue deck that they've used to prey on like Ira and I guess also Briar, then yeah, you can set up the double blazing. But even like through no rune 4, you can just chip them down. It's like I don't know. Like Kano gets through no rune 4 fine enough, but you just set up the bottom in case for insurance in case you have to block on a turn you don't want to and lose key pieces. But yeah, it's super easy to set up double blazing if it's that deck. And then the other deck, it was also just way easier than Ira. The thing, like Ira is just hard because there's so much value out of the hero abilities, also Razor Reflex and
Needle.
Sigil of Solace.
Needle.
Yeah, Needle, Sigil of Solace, and then like CNCs for 7, all that kind of stuff's not fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well,
so you're playing.
I guess I'll just have to try it out myself because I actually haven't played any Blitz since last skirmish season. So
yeah, I could have been playing against a wonky list, but the person I was playing against even tried switching up the list a little bit, and it was still super Kano favorite, it seemed. But speaking of looking Kano, is that do you think that Kano's the future because Ira's going to rotate out, or because you think he's going to get something in Everfest?
Well, number one, I think he's going to get some nice stuff in Everfest. I think that they have neglected him for far too long. And all the Kano mains they have their pitchforks ready. They're like, show us another Runeblade LSS. Give me another one.
Give me another one. Let's see what happens.
So they're ready, and I think that LSS really like the wizard class almost as much as they like Runeblades, but not quite. So I feel like there could definitely be some things coming in Everfest, and if there are, I feel like that's probably going to be the deck to be on. I also just think it's like in terms of blitz decks, and I know an Ira player is saying this, but I think Kano is tier 0, and then there are other things that are tier 1, but nothing else is in tier 0 with Kano.
Not even
disagree with me if you want, but that is my opinion.
That's a trap.
Keep in mind, it's coming from the player that hasn't even learned Kano yet. So
that's true.
games
Yeah,
on Kano. Yeah, Ira is definitely probably equal with Kano.
I can't wait
for a hard match.
Go for Dante to play like 30 games with Kano and be like, Dick's trash. These matchups are unwinnable.
That's the natural progression of Kano right there.
Yeah,
that is also the Dante Delfico Classic. So
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Buckle up, boys. It's gonna be
Dante,
some fun testing next week.
I want to talk about for the professional season. You obviously you're from Canada, but you made it out to every single event. So you made it out to Las Vegas, Dallas, Cincinnati, and Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty crazy schedule you had. We'll talk about that right after you answer this question, which is, are you planning to keep that up for 2022? You're going to be traveling for all the events?
I would love to. I just don't know if I will be able to. Number one, it's a pretty big financial commitment. I haven't been on vacation a long, long time. So this was just like, let's go on, a month straight of vacation essentially, which was nice. And it was a lot of fun, but I just don't know if I can keep that up. Like it's, mucho dinero, which I'm not trying to spend mucho dinero, I like saving. I'm a big time saver. You guys know that about me. So I don't know if I'll be going to every single one. Obviously I will try and make it out to all the ones that make sense, I guess. But between plane tickets and COVID tests and eating out and like this and that, like it really adds up in terms of how much money you're spending on these events. Specifically the COVID tests. I spent like $1,000 in COVID tests. 1,000 USD, by the way, not even CAD. So that's like what, 6,000 CAD in COVID tests. Just an insane amount of money. It really, it adds up pretty quick. So I don't know, financially, I don't know if it's in the books, but I would love to. It would be a lot of fun. I would also have to like get time off from work, and it's just a lot. And I think there are going to be a lot of callings next year. So I'm going to make it for the ones that I can, but I don't think that I can just, kind of table everything and go to all these callings like I did this year.
I remember you originally weren't planning to go to Cincinnati. How did that happen, right? You were in Dallas. You're planning to go back to Canada. Tell us the story about how you got to Cincinnati.
So I did plan on going to Cincinnati. The issue is that
he planned on driving.
the American land border stayed closed to Canadians. So I wouldn't have actually been able to drive into the States. I live in Toronto, so it would only have been about a 5-hour drive or so. So I didn't buy a plane ticket. I didn't do any of that. I didn't plan on going at all. And then I'm in, we're all there for Dallas. We're having a good time. Maybe a couple drinks in me when I made this decision, but things happen. And basically I was talking with you guys, you and Zach and Steven and Tim and everybody, Ian.
Not me.
And you guys were not you. Yeah, you weren't there. But I was talking with everybody else, basically everybody else who matters. And and you guys basically convinced me to go to Cincinnati. I didn't think that it was in the cards, because flights, to me, like anytime I try and book a flight, it's like $1,000 minimum. But I looked at flights within the US and I was shocked. I got a flight for $67 Canadian from Dallas to Cincinnati, which is an insane price. I just needed somewhere to stay. And then, Brendan Patrick, the greatest man of all time, what does he do? Calls up his parents. I stay with Brendan's parents for a week. I became Brendan Patrick.
Yeah, it's
Um,
weird. He
I
became
lived
like my
his
parents'
life.
son. Literally, he went and lived with my parents.
Sitting at the dinner
They're like
table,
they're
watching the
like
football.
they're like 45 minutes away. So yeah, it was just I just have a 1-bedroom apartment with an office. So there wasn't a lot of room here. So I called my parents and they have like an extra bedroom and everything. Like, yeah, no problem. And he just was like a surrogate child for a week. I gave
watch
him
sports every night with your dad.
I literally gave Dante my car.
Yeah, it's true.
He had a car, a house, a family. He had parents. He had dogs.
I had everything that
honestly,
I
I
ever
didn't.
needed.
I didn't even see him that much that week. He didn't even want to hang out
saw
with
each
me.
other like twice. Whoa! Let's relax.
It was too cool for me.
You said you were busy, but
I was like, Dante, you want to come over? He's like, nah, man, I'm hanging out with your dad. Me and your dad are playing some hoops.
Playing some hoops.
Yeah, watching some hoops.
Could you imagine?
We had a great
Dante,
time.
Let's go to dinner. Fuck that. I'm playing catch with your dad.
I heard that when Dante left to jump on the plane, your dad said, "Goodbye, son. I'll see you soon." So,
almost certainly.
It was a pretty heartfelt moment. I'm not going to lie to you. The amount of bonding that I did with that man in such a short period of time.
Oh God,
man, I miss your dad already.
It's so bizarre.
do you miss Brendan?
I guess not really, but his parents, I swear to God, they were the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. It was insane how like hospitable they were. Just so nice.
It's called Southern hospitality.
I can't thank them enough. And they allowed me to go to the Cincinnati calling, which ended up also being a failure. But such is life. I had a great time with my friends. So
prepared you for Orlando, though.
Yeah, exactly. To kind of go back to that previous question, I will try and go to all the constructed callings, but I don't think I will ever go to a limited calling again for as long as I live, because I just think that I am the worst limited player of all time.
I think that you've evolved, because last time I talked to you, it was that limited is trash and it's high variance, but now it's just like, are these like the stages of denial we're going through? It's like limited is trash, and then it goes,
well, yeah, that's how it works, right? Is you start with my opponent is garbage and I'm the greatest, and then you kind of evolve into, wait, maybe I'm actually not very good at this game. And I've come to learn that pretty quickly, especially at Canadian Nats. Holy moly. I have to win one game. It was funny. At Canadian Nats, there's day 2 is 3 rounds of Swiss for 3 rounds of draft, sorry. And then you go to the top 8. I needed to win, I think, one game. So 1 out of 3. And I took 2 losses right away, like instantly, because my deck that I drafted was so garbage. And then things just ended up like lining up for me nicely in the last game. But otherwise, I think I would have missed out on the top 8 just because like my drafting and just limited playability is so poor. So yeah, things to keep in mind, but I definitely will not be traveling for limited callings in the future. I just can't do that to myself.
What about when I come out?
Okay.
Are you going to come for one, Hayden?
Yeah, if I come for one, you have to.
Yeah, I don't know. I might. Maybe I'll just play side events all weekend. I'll farm one of those big
giant
sheets of cards.
Oh yeah.
The printer sheets,
uncut sheet.
Yeah. I'll farm one of those all weekend. Make my money back.
All right. So let's talk about Everfest, because obviously that's kind of the hot news. Like, Dante? What do you want to get out of it? Like, what are you looking to see? What will make that set get old Dante Delfico excited? What'll warm you up in that cold Canadian winter?
Well, I'll be honest here. Some mech cards. Ooh. That gets me excited. I love the mechanologist class, so I think that more mech cards would be pretty sweet. I don't even need items. You know what? If you don't want to give me items, no problem. Just give me some more boost cards, Give me some nice boost cards. Let me see what you got for me there. So boost cards would be cool. Just mechanologist cards in general. I think that some new ninja cards would be kind of nice to see. That might spice up the Katsu deck a little bit, which I feel like Katsu is like right on the precipice of being like insane. He just hasn't quite gotten there yet because he doesn't. I feel like he just doesn't have the cards to be there right now. He's like so close to being tier 1 amazing, but he's just not quite there yet. And I think that a couple more cards will get him there.
It's weird because Ninja has such a deep card pool.
Very wide
Yeah, I
card pool,
know.
though, I would say, rather than
Yeah,
being
it
deep.
is wide.
Yeah.
It is not. I wouldn't. Not very vertical.
No.
Very horizontal.
Very
Yeah,
horizontal.
yeah.
This is like a
I don't
whole
know.
section of cards that are just not used, like the Flood of Force and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say there's like a bunch of combo lines that just don't see play because they're not that great. And I don't know if there might be like new heroes in the set or anything like that, but I would love to see that as well. I don't think like they would only do young heroes, I believe, but they're like KO, for example, not my favorite young hero ever, but he's a little spicer. I like the spice that he brings. So if they have some other young heroes, similar to Kasai and things like that, I think that could be really fun.
They could do
If
a
they,
gold. If
you
you
think
think
so?
about it, right? Yeah, because if you think about Crucible of War, it was released in the context of like Blitz becoming a format, right? So it was really exciting for it to be young heroes. Well, that's like obviously they've shown that they're willing to push the creative and design bounds more with young heroes. Like we have Shiana, we have Cavdeen, this
Mhm.
weird stuff, KO. I think it's totally reasonable for a supplementary set to have like a new adult hero.
I think, yeah, I don't know. That would be really cool. I think just any new heroes in general definitely bring something new to the game. I'd also like to see some cards for like, I don't know, if they did like Shadow Ninja or something like that, but there is no Shadow Ninja hero, so we get a little sneak peek, a little taster for what's going to be in the set after, and that would be kind of cool. Cards that you can't actually
You want
use,
dead
but
cards?
just,
Totally
that are just there.
unplayable
Yeah,
card.
I would actually, because it would get me excited for what's coming next. Obviously not like a whole bunch of dead cards, but like maybe just one card that's kind of thrown in there that nobody can use yet, but somebody will be able to use in the future.
Why can't they just use flavor text for that? Or
But
story?
no, I would definitely want at least one dead card.
Okay.
Or
I would also like to
previous
see an expansion on the merchant.
yeah,
class.
copper,
Like,
silver, gold, whatever the heck they're supposed to do with that.
exactly, yeah. I think that some like merchant attacks and a merchant weapon would be really cool to see.
Some merchant class cards.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Or
There's
at
my
least
wish-
like
there's
expand
my wish.
expand on the currency system, right?
Yeah.
I know Hayden, you said a few times you're not excited to have that expanded on, but like it's still like it's very they teased us. I mean, there's obviously more to it than just like this copper token.
It's just one of those ones where
And,
it's like it seems like it's going to be more enjoyable to want to have it than to actually have it. You know.
Yeah, but I love copper tokens. Like if they weren't so, they're kind of bad, right?
Do you
Like-
love copper tokens? What do you love about them?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's inherent. Like, I mean, if you look at the design of it, I think that it's like a variance fixing design, right? Like you pay X number of cards to refill that, right? So help fix variance.
yeah.
So like if we had like silver or gold, maybe the rate is a bit better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we just like four copper is one silver, 4 silver is 1 gold. And there's different cash and rates to how you filter your hand.
Yeah, I do get worried about Flesh and Blood having like resource sinks, because I think resource sinks are like really powerful effects in a game like this where you play hand to hand, or where you both opponents are refreshing, so you can gain advantage off like resource sinks. That's like my only concern with those kind of cards, and they've been very LSS so far, and they're designed to be very careful to avoid some of these like resource sinks that could be could potentially be very very powerful. I mean, I look at something like like Exude Confidence, right? Like that's a resource sink, but it's like the rate on it's like really low, right? 3 resources for 2 damage. I mean, it's still good. It's still good. Don't get me wrong. It's a good effect, but you'd be careful once you start like throwing a lot of resource sinks around, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any resource sinks that are at like 1 resource. There's not 1 or 2.
No, I have faith in LSS to implement it correctly, though. I don't think that they would release something that breaks the game. I think that they, happen with Chain, and then that's it. Now we're all set.
They
Seeds gets
would
banned,
never
and
they
we're
would never
fine.
release never release an item that just gets a counter every time you play an attack action and a non-attack action. No, obviously I have more faith in LSS, I think, than most people. Like I have extreme faith in them. But I think that's a good topic, Dante. Dante, do you think that Briar needs an errata or a ban?
I don't think
Or a
she needs to
card
get
needs a ban?
banned. I think that the living legend system that they have right now might not be, I guess, fast enough for Briar to see like the ban.
Does Briar
that
need it
people
though,
would
right?
say.
Because like that's
I
the
don't
question.
think so. I think that maybe if similar to the way that Viscera is printed, where you can play a non-attack action and then follow up with Runeblade cards and start generating rune chants. If you play, your second, if your second non-attack action this turn is an elemental something, I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not a designer.
Yeah, I mean that's the common narrative, right? But I think the question more is like, do you think that that's what's needed? Because like if we went in that direction, I think that that's probably where we would go. But is it needed, right? Because I think that it's a popular topic, but like I don't think that it's needed because Briar is just so much more targetable than like Chain was. Like Chain was like broken. It just beat everything, no matter what. And Briar like definitely has a very hard matchup into this Viscera combo or OTK, whatever you want to call it. Definitely has a hard matchup into Oldheim. Yeah, not Fatigue Oldheim if you pitch stack. But like, I mean, Michael's list is definitely a hard match, and then this Ice Lexi list. Like Ice Lexi is probably a little bit inconsistent, but I mean, it's not an easy match.
Nope. There's definitely ways to target Briar. I don't think that she needs to get banned in any way. I also don't think that an errata is necessary. If they were going to do it, they would probably find a way to. But I think that the deck, like you said, is just very easily targetable. So I don't think it becomes like this unstoppable force in the meta that, it can deal with every deck. It doesn't have any bad matchups. Obviously, there's going to be decks in any meta that are stronger than other decks, especially if they're piloted well. But as long as there are decks that can deal with it, then it's fine. Whereas, like you said, with Chain, there just wasn't any deck that could deal with it effectively. If you knew what you were doing on that deck, you had no losable matchups, essentially. Everything was just very easily winnable.
I think the Briar deck is very powerful, but also very accessible, which is why it feels so much more oppressive than I think it actually is. It's like the deck is really cheap to build. The plan is really easy to understand, like the macro plan. Obviously, like the micro play is complicated, but like I think you can like reach like 80% proficiency pretty quick with that deck, and that's why I think that like that contributes more to the feeling of it being so good more than it actually just being this unstoppable force like some people think.
Yeah, I think that if the Briar deck was something different, like if it turns out that Oldhim was the best, the best character or whatever, the best hero in the game, and it had the deck that was, top of the meta right now, I don't think you would see nearly as much representation because I think that the deck would be more expensive to build, number one, and it wouldn't be as easy or like just fun to pick up and play as the Briar deck is. I think that the Briar deck just sees this huge representation because not only is it a good deck, but it's also cheap and it's fun and easy to play for the most part.
There's a big piece there about the decks that have had success in this game so far, and you just talked about like if Oldhim was like the better deck, right? All the decks that have had success so far have been, I would say, like pretty. They've had proactive game plans for one, right? They've also been like pretty linear, and they've also been like fairly easy to play at like 80%. Like Dash is definitely true of that. Chain, even to an extent, yeah, there was the fatigue matchups, but you had raw power in that deck. And Chain had some, you'd see the Agnes, there's some other things going on there. And then Briar very much reminds me of like this kind of dash minigame that we walked into. And people, better players as well, like gravitated towards those decks, I think, because you could get to 90, 95% proficiency, be really good against the meta, be really good against like the mirror matches. Whereas if you take another deck and maybe these decks that are harder to play, they're less intuitive, they probably take more time to understand matchups. Maybe you've got a bit of aspects of some matchups not being as close to the middle. Those decks seem to be, I guess, less explored at this point. I honestly think that once we get to like the first Pro Tour, that's at the point where you get people really, really pushing the limits of like deck design, of like game plan design, and then you find out like truly like how good is something like Briar, how good is the plan that Briar enacts. If we get to the first Pro Tour and Briar like is 40-50% representation and there's 4 or 5 decks in the top 8 and wins the event, then yeah, I agree. But I just don't think that happens. I think, for instance, there's ways to target this deck. I think the one card that like I'm concerned about is like Plunder Run, just in general, just that card, just in the game in general. But yeah, I honestly think that the heroes and the game plans we've seen so far, like we're still getting there on deck design, and we're still getting there on the way that game plans are designed as well.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about one of Briar's worst matchups as well, which is Chain. Like, there's all the obvious, like, kind of counters, but like Chain itself is just really strong into Briar. I think just really well positioned in the meta as Prism starts to kind of fade out.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know, it depends. Because like that, if we look at like the top 8 of US Nationals chain lists and we put this up against like a defensive Oldhim list, I'd be interested to see how it goes. But like, if it can beat that, then it's the best deck in the format for sure, in my opinion.
But that's why people play decks like Briar, right? Because you might have like 1 or 2 bad matchups, but if those decks are lowly represented, then it's like, okay. But if you play a deck like Chain and you have, people still playing Prism Auras, people still playing these Bravo decks where they're trying to fatigue, people are now picking up Ultim. You've got these like, the meta is like evolving, but it's evolving like sideways. It's a really odd sort of concept I think we're seeing at the moment, where the meta evolution isn't like this necessarily like build up. It's like people are still like attached to heroes because of how this game works. People are still attached to strategies they've played in the past because of how this game works. We have open fields mostly at the moment because of callings, although we've seen that change a little bit with nationals. So you're not like having this straight vertical build. You're having this like kind of these offshoots of things happening. And in the meantime, these linear decks seem to, I guess, continue to be able to find success, like a lot of success because of that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. That was like exactly why we ended up on Briar for Orlando and not on Chain, because like but there's a really good or Viscera. There's a really good argument that Chain might actually still be the best deck in the format, which is funny.
Who's been making that argument?
It's because we have things faded. Like we have a transition, right? Like we are finally transitioning away from like Prism, and I think some of these defensive Bravo builds. But who knows? Because I also watched like Dan Mackay play that chain list and just slap some fatigue lists, and he wasn't deck stacking or anything; he was just rolling it.
Yep.
So
really,
yeah. You're see Dante's face. See the face of.
I told Dante to ignore me.
The week before Orlando, I went to a tournament at a game store near my house, Red Riot Games, and they were hosting a $1,000 tournament. Basically, if you win, you get like $500, and like the 1,000 is split amongst the top 8. And I brought Chain to that event because I was trying it like before Orlando just to get some like testing data in for the team. And every single deck that I played against was like a fatigue list. And I thought it was the hardest tournament that I've ever had to play in my life, just because trying to beat fatigue with that new chain list was so like I just found it so incredibly difficult, especially going up against it like round after round after round. Like maybe the first 2 rounds is fine because like mentally I'm fresh, but once round 3 and 4 hit, it was just really hard because the amount of like thinking and pitch stacking that you had to do, like just too much, I think. And I don't know, like I can't see bringing that to a competitive event and seeing success if you're going to be mentally taxed the entire day while you're trying to like figure that out.
So let me give you the caveat. So Dan was not playing that list. So that list you were playing, Dan specifically said that was badless. He's playing Michael Fang's list. Michael Fang's list, the list that got second in US Nationals. So it has Minnowism and Belittle and a significantly lower blood deck count than that list, as well as, of course, the Flock of the Featherwalkers. And he was just kind of rolling the fatigue matchups without pitch stacking. Well, your list was built to pitch stack and with like 80% less tools.
Yeah, you can tell Dan to go. I like that list, but it's a hard list to play. I mean, it's not for everyone to be able to pitch stack and play efficiently and use their spellbound creep as well. So,
Yeah, I did discover that firsthand. Like I said, 2 rounds was fine. Once I hit round 3, it was over. I just couldn't do it anymore. My brain like turned off.
Just mush.
So that's interesting though. I would like to try that Michael Fang list then.
I really liked his list.
Yeah. That sounds really cool.
I want to ask you,
maybe
Dante,
that is the best deck in the format.
Because you're gonna keep on testing. Like you said, you come back from your vacation on Monday, and you keep on testing in a non-competitive format, right? Like we don't have any competitive events coming up. It is sort of a chill time. What's going to be your focus before Everfest? Like, what are you trying to get done? What are you trying to improve on in the off season?
Well, like I said, number 1 is learning Kano, but for the most part, I know that Dan and Hayden both have their nationals coming up, probably before
definitely
before Everfest comes out. So Obviously, they have been incredible in terms of being testing partners to help me prepare for all the callings that we went to, as well as nationals. So I'm not really going to focus on me. I'm more going to focus on them. It's just whatever Dan and Hayden need, I'm here for you guys.
Thanks, Dante. Good team answer.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice PR answer. I want to like in the group, I want to redo the devastation thing, but like in house. I know Hayden, you're talking about like we might be able to do something where we film it or whatever, like after Everfest, but still, I think it would just be a fun format. I like the idea of like drafting the heroes, and then we were gonna switch it up a little bit to where either your hero wasn't necessarily knocked out, but you can only win like 2 games with it or something. But I think it'd be really fun. Just forcing people to play other decks.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot as well. I think that we should do it after Everfest comes out, though,
I think we
to push deck building once with the new cards, basically. Because otherwise, it's just like, for me personally, anyway. I don't know about you guys, but I'd just be like, let me just go net deck a list that I know is good and just play that into these fools.
Fair enough.
That's funny. Yeah. So Hayden, let's talk about you a little bit because you still have nationals. Obviously, so does Dan. What are you looking at to prepare for nationals right now? Are you pretty committed to the Lightning Briar deck, or are you, seeing other people at this point?
I never wanted to play that deck. As much as I think it was like a pretty. I talked about this. I think on maybe an episode a couple of weeks ago, and I talked both of you about this, about like the line of where you choose to play a deck like Lightning Briar, and where it was positioned in that format. You could be like slightly too late on the deck, or you could be like slightly ahead of the line, me playing the right deck, especially if you have the right list. And I think for that event, like we were slightly ahead. That was fine. Like we had the right list, and I think it was okay. I really don't want to be playing that deck. I think there's decks out there that are very good. I think for me at the moment, it's like working out the meta's starting to, I guess, solidify a bit with the nationals happening at the moment. I think that a lot of what we see in the next 2 weeks will probably be what I see. It sounds like January is going to be my nationals, so Christmas is like downtime for people. There's going to be like only realistically like maybe 6 or 7 weeks before nationals, and there's going to be no major events happening in that time. So after this weekend of nationals, so I think we're going to see like a pretty solidified meta, unless New Zealand nationals happens before Australian nationals, and in which case they could throw some spanners in the works in terms of like decks that pop up and things like that. But it sounds like they might end up happening maybe on the same weekend even. Australia is like ahead of New Zealand now in terms of just likelihood of nationals being hosted. So yeah, for me it's like understand this meta that's starting to solidify, get reps on the decks that are doing well, and then just understand like how I think I want to target it. Ideally, I want to play a deck that probably we're not seeing maybe at the moment and can target these current decks in the meta. So yeah, we'll see what happens. That's my plan though.
So give me the percent chance that you end up on Lightning Briar. Just throw it out.
The percent chance?
Yeah.
15%? 10%?
Whoa, that's way higher than I thought you would say. That's crazy.
That's what I thought it would be, yeah.
I mean, there's still like, if you break down like what heroes are in the format, right, that I'm likely to play, there's probably 5 or 6 maximum, and then Lightning Briar is like a good established deck, and I think that there's still some tuning opportunities with that deck, so I think 10 or 15% is pretty reasonable. Dante wanted to hear 2%.
I thought you were gonna shut it down with a 0, and I was trying to go 2 to be higher than the 0, but I'm actually shocked.
So. I'm not a maniac.
For you, Hayden. Way to not be closed-minded. I love that.
I'm interested to see where Viscera goes. Like the current Viscera list that beats Lightning Briar it's not too crazy, right? Like it definitely has a game plan in terms of like maybe gets in some damage and sort of combo. It builds a rune chance that combos you out. What I'm really interested about Viscera is just the Spellbound Creepers. Obviously, those are Runeblade agnostic, so you can play them in any Runeblade. But that just seems like if there's like any potential problem cards like that kind of haven't been found out yet, I really think that Spellbound Creepers is one of them.
Yeah,
I think there will be a deck that just abuses that card.
Yep. Couldn't say it enough, to be honest.
It is pretty strong. I only really actually realized that when you Spellbound Creepers me on my turn and like did a Sonata for God knows how much with the Skeleton, which I also learned is an instant. And I lost to like just 5 arcane damage or whatever it was instantly because I literally could not do anything because it's my turn. And yeah, but getting killed on my turn was something that isn't a steel blade shunt or a sigil of suffering, I guess now.
Or
Reckless swing.
Was very strange, and that's kind of when I started realizing, like, the Spellbound Creepers card might be kind of good. That's a little interesting.
Yeah, before that, Dante was just using it to defend with. He's like, Iron Rot Boots, my favorite.
Yeah. That is basically what they were for me, because I don't have the technical mind of these two, just Goliaths of men. I just couldn't figure it out. I need someone to teach me, and thank God I have them to do that.
So funny. Yeah, that and Rosetta Thorn are just nuts. Rosetta Thorn is such a funny weapon that was added to the game. The 1 cost, 2 and 2.
Yeah.
Powerhouse.
That's good. All right.
Yeah, it is extremely good. I love that it comes in armory kits as a cold foil, and I don't have to shill out like $7,000 to buy a cold foil version that comes out of a set or something like
Just
that.
got mine. Just got mine last night.
Sad. Oh, you got yours last night? Attaboy.
Did. I played Rhinar in a classic constructed armory. Picked up
Took it out, eh?
Good event. I had fun. Played a lot of fun games.
Interesting. Over or under Hayden being on Rhinar? Over under 50% for Nats. What do you think, Brendan?
I'll take under. Although
really?
I think that it's an underappreciated deck, especially into Lightning Briar. Like it has.
What do you think?
Don't know. No thoughts currently.
Something tells me
sounds like a man on vacation.
Over for sure. I think that I think Hayden might rock up with a KO deck, to be honest. And I would love to see it.
Adult KO coming in Everfest, so here we go.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine? Oh no, that would be so bad. I would have to quit the game.
Wouldn't be good.
There would be no other option.
It wouldn't be good.
No.
These heroes, and they should, right? Their names they've been given names, so they should stay locked to Blitz in theory, to young heroes. But
yeah,
adult data
as well. Oh yeah, nice 3 intellect. I know all about that, and I can tell you it is impossible to game.
I know all about that. Oh man, you should just tell that story, Dante. That's actually hilarious.
Sure, yeah. So it was in Orlando. I just finished the 10th round of Swiss, I believe. And at that point, I was undefeated in the Swiss rounds. I had just beaten Matt Rogers, actually. And Matt Rogers is like a player that I really look up to. So, the adrenaline is high. I'm feeling it a little bit. I got to go take a walk. So I grab my posse, Brendan, Patrick, Hayden, Dale. They come outside with me, my boys, as they say. We're all just hanging out outside. They decide to go back into the venue. I decide to go to the washroom because after a match like that, you get a little bit nervous. I get back into the venue. Turns out the next round has started. Everybody's kind of finding their seats and sitting down. From the door entering the venue to table 1 of where the calling was happening, it's like a mile-long walk. It is insane how far you have to go to get there. So I engage speed walking mode. I'm like, I turn on the thrusters. I'm getting down there. Unfortunately, I was not fast enough because I'm about 20 seconds away from my table when I hear the intercom go out and the head judge basically says that the next round is starting. But I'm walking over. I am speed at this point, and everybody can see me walking. The judge is standing at my table with my opponent, and he can literally see me like speed walking over. And they saw me prior to the next round being, called as starting or anything like that. I sit down, and the judge is like, "Yep, so you're late." And I was like, "Yes, I'm sorry, I was in the washroom." And he's like, "That doesn't matter. You're getting an IP5." And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" I literally sat at that table like 20 seconds late. But I took a look at the official rules. If you're anything more than 0 seconds late, you get an IP5. So that was a little bit crazy and something that I'll never do again. I'll just hold it.
Just tell the judge.
Holy moly. Yeah, no, it was crazy.
The way Dante described it to me, he was like, yeah, I was mid-wipe. And then... Oh, God.
I think we told you. Like, rounds up, Dante. And Dante's like, I can't hear.
Yeah, it was, definitely not the best decision I ever made. I actually lost 20 elo for for that loss. And I think that was a game that I could have won for sure. So it was definitely not the best thing that could have ever happened. But
listen, Lent. At least it wasn't for top 8. Could have been worse.
Yeah. Getting an IP5 was certainly not ideal, and I never want one again because I learned pretty quick that it's almost impossible to win a game if you have an IP5. I don't think it actually is possible. The disadvantage that you're at throughout the entire game, I don't know. For anybody that plays Datadol, like, I commend you because you must hate yourself. That cannot be fun. So just never again will I be late for a round.
Imagine rocking up and getting IP5 playing Datadol.
Oh, yeah, that'd be rough. Yeah, that would be rough. I'll save that for the next blitz calling. I'll make sure that I bring Datadol and I'll come to my round late and just see what happens. Just test the waters a little bit.
You heard it here first. Dante on Datadol for the next blitz calling.
Confirmed. Lock it in.
Brutal. Hey, did you have a question? You were about to say something earlier before we got caught off on a tangent.
No, I think there was... I wanted to ask just what Dante's record was at Nationals overall. So you said that you went 1-2 on day 2 of draft. So what was your constructed record and what was your draft record overall?
Yeah, so my constructed record was 6-0, aside from, I guess 6-1 because I lost in the top 8 to the person that ended up winning the event, actually. She ended up beating me so on the Ice Lexi deck, which is just not a good matchup. But yeah, so 6-1, I suppose, in CC, and then draft. I don't even know. I think I went 2-1 the first day and 1-2 the second day.
3-3.
Yeah, and the 2-1 was like just a miracle, really, that it happened. I can't even imagine if, like, I ended up playing one of my friends in the top, or not in the top, in the last round of draft on day 1. And it was Oldhim versus Oldhim, and he said that he could have boarded in, like, I think it was 39 cards or something like that, and I only had 32 that I could have possibly boarded in. We both ended up playing 30, but it went to like this ultra fatigue game where like Evergreen is winning you the game essentially at that point because there's just no other option for you. And had he boarded in 39 cards, I would have lost like on the spot. There would have been no chance for me. So
interesting.
I'm really glad that he didn't, and I think that is the only reason that I ended up top 8ing is because I was able to fatigue him before he fatigued me. And yeah, I hate draft, and I'm just gonna.
I love draft. I'll tell you what, I have a little story for you, Dante. I played a draft skirmish in the weekend, and I played an all-time mirror where my opponent was playing 39 cards, and I was playing 30, and I fatigued them.
So, you fatigue them?
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Actually, funny enough, that's actually
are just a better player.
The quality of the card is so much lower.
If you have a stronger deck, you will like 3-for-1 them consistently, and you'll actually fatigue them. It's crazy, but yeah.
This is so tomorrow in Evergreen.
I'm telling you right now, my deck was so good. Like that Oldhim list that I had was actually really, really good. But I don't know. I guess I'm just a bad player. That's the only explanation for me because I literally, like, if he ran 39 cards, there would have been no chance for me. Even with his deck completely diluted, it wouldn't have mattered. Like, I would have just lost on the spot.
Well, Dante, thank you so much for joining us and telling all of your secret stories with us. It was always funny to hear. But yeah, until next time, active player turn 0, 1 additional turn.
It's time in the round.